My father stood up so fast his chair scraped the hardwood like a warning. My mother didn't even look at me, she just stared at the table as if I'd spilled something ugly on it. Then my older brother Liam said the words that changed my life. "You're not our problem anymore." I remember my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold my fork, and I remember thinking, if I speak, I'll cry. But when I finally did speak, I didn't beg. I said, "I have the DNA results." And the silence that followed was louder than any scream. I wasn't always the family disappointment. For most of my life, I tried to be the easiest person to love. I was the daughter who said thank you for small things, who got good grades without being asked, who never slammed doors. I learned early that my parents loved peace more than they loved truth. My mother, Diane, liked a perfect table setting and a perfect family photo. My father, Richard, liked control. My brother Liam liked being the golden child. And me, I liked belonging. Our house was the kind where you smiled in public and swallowed your feelings in private. We did family dinners every Sunday, no matter what. Even after I moved into my own tiny apartment across town, I still showed up, because part of me believed that if I kept showing up, they'd eventually see me as worth keeping. The problem started the night my engagement ended. His name was Mason. He was charming in that way. Some men are confident, always laughing like nothing could touch him. My parents adored him from the moment they met him, mostly because he fit the picture they liked to show the world. He came from money, he dressed well, and he called my mother ma'am like he'd been trained for it. Diane told her friends, "Kira finally found someone stable." I ignored the little things that didn't feel stable, like how Mason never wanted to talk about his childhood, like how he dodged questions about his family with jokes, like how he got tense whenever I mentioned future kids, like how he insisted on keeping my social media clean. No messy opinions or arguments or posts that might embarrass him. The first time I caught him lying, it was small. A work dinner that turned out to be a bar with a woman I'd never met. He called me paranoid. Then he apologized so beautifully I felt guilty for doubting him. The second time, it was bigger. A credit card bill I didn't recognize, charges at places he said he never went. He blamed a mistake. I told myself mistakes happen. The third time, I stopped telling myself stories. I found a folder on his laptop just sitting there, not even hidden. Inside were screenshots of my text messages, my emails, my bank account login page from when I'd once used his computer, and a spreadsheet with my name at the top. It listed my savings, my salary, my credit score, even the year my grandmother left me a small inheritance. I stared at it until my stomach turned cold. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He shrugged like I'd caught him leaving socks on the floor. "You're overreacting," he said. "I was planning our future. I needed to know what I was working with." "What you were working with," I repeated, my voice shaking. Mason leaned against the kitchen counter, calm as ever. "You're lucky I'm even willing to marry into whatever your family is." That sentence hit me like a slap, because he said it with a smile, like he knew something I didn't. "What does that mean?" I asked. He took a slow sip of water. "It means your parents have been lying to you, Kira, and they don't want you digging." I laughed once, sharp and nervous. "You're trying to scare me." "No," he said, and for the first time, his eyes looked hard. "I'm telling you the truth. They've hidden things about you." Then he walked out of my apartment as if he'd just dropped a casual fact, not a grenade. I didn't sleep that night. I paced. I replayed every moment of my childhood like it was a film I'd missed the ending of. And when morning came, I did what I'd never done before. I went to my parents' house without calling first. Diane opened the door wearing an apron, like she'd been waiting for someone else. The smile she started with faded when she saw me. "Kira," she said, too controlled. "It's early. I need to talk." I said. Richard appeared behind her, already frowning. "About what?" Mason said. "You've been hiding something from me." The air changed. I could feel it in my skin, like the temperature dropped a few degrees. Diane's eyes flicked to Richard. Richard's jaw tightened. "That man," Richard said, stepping forward, "is not welcome here." "I ended it," I said, and Diane's face twitched relief first, then something else. Fear, anger, I couldn't tell. "Good," Diane said quickly. "He wasn't right for you." "Then why did he say you were hiding things about me?" I demanded. Richard's voice turned sharp. "Because he's bitter. Because he's trying to hurt you. Don't bring his poison into this house." I looked from one to the other. "I'm not leaving until you tell me the truth." Diane's lips pressed together. "Kira." "No," I said, my voice rising. No more vague answers. No more acting like I'm the one causing trouble for asking a simple question. If there's something about me you've hidden, I deserve to know. Richard stepped closer, towering like he still could scare me into silence. You're being dramatic. I held my ground. I'm being awake. Diane's eyes got glossy, but her voice stayed steady. Let it go. That's when I knew that there was nothing. They'd laugh. They'd roll their eyes. They'd tell me Mason was crazy, but they wouldn't look like they were standing on the edge of a cliff. I left without answers, but with certainty. Something was wrong. So, I did what my family always mocked other people for doing. I asked for help. My best friend Tessa listened, while I spilled everything out at a coffee shop, my hands wrapped around a mug I didn't even drink. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said softly. I feel like one, I whispered, like I've been living in my own life but not really in it. Tessa didn't say I was overreacting. She didn't say maybe they had reasons. She just asked, have you ever done a DNA test? The question landed in my chest. No, I said. Do it, she said. Not because Mason said anything, because you feel it, because your parents are acting like the truth is a threat. It felt dramatic. It felt like something from a movie. But I had lived my whole life inside other people's version of reality. I was done letting them write my story. I ordered a kit that night. The waiting nearly broke me. 2 weeks is not a long time. Not in the grand scale of life, but when you're waiting for an answer that might change your identity, every day feels like a year. I kept thinking about small things I'd ignored. How my hair was lighter than my mother's dark curls. How I got freckles in the sun while she never did. How Richard used to make jokes about me being too sensitive, like I wasn't made of the same material as them. And then there was the biggest thing, my blood type. When I was 16, I'd donated blood at school. The nurse told me my type. I remembered it because it felt weirdly important. Later, I asked Diane what hers was, and she said something different. When I asked Richard, he waved it off and said, we never paid attention to things like that. I'd accepted it, because I accepted everything now. I wrote it down in my notes app like it was evidence. When the email finally came, your results are ready. I was sitting in my car outside my apartment building, hands sweating on the steering wheel. I opened it. At first, it looked like a colorful pie chart and percentages. Then I scrolled, and my breath stopped. The results didn't match what they should have, not even close. It wasn't just ancestry, it was the family matches. The top matches weren't people I recognized. There was no Richard, no Diane, no Liam. Instead, there was a woman listed as close family parent-child. Her name was Evelyn Hart. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. I clicked. She had messaged me. Hi, I'm not sure how to say this. I think I might be your mother. I've been waiting for this day for 25 years. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. 20-5 years. My age. I didn't drive. I didn't go inside. I just sat there in the car, reading her message over and over, until the words felt like they were carving themselves into my mind. I replied with trembling thumbs. I need to understand. I was raised by Richard and Diane Marshall. Her response came fast, like she'd been sitting there waiting. I know who they are, she wrote. They promised they would give you a good life. They promised I'd get updates, then they disappeared. I'm so sorry. I covered my mouth with my hand. My whole body shook. I thought about Richard's anger, Diane's controlled sadness, the way they always demanded loyalty without offering honesty. They hadn't just lied. They had stolen. My next thought wasn't even about them. It was about me. Who was I? That night, I didn't call my parents. I didn't run to confront them. I did something I'd never done before. I slowed down. I let myself feel everything: grief, rage, confusion, and a strange, guilty spark of hope, because even though the truth shattered my past, it also opened a door. I agreed to meet Evelyn. We chose a public place, a quiet park with benches near a small lake. I arrived early, wearing a coat I barely felt. I watched families walk by, kids running, parents laughing, and I wondered how many stories were hiding behind normal faces. Then, I saw her. Evelyn looked like someone had taken my face and softened it with time. She had my eyes, same shape, same color. Her hair was pulled back, and she walked toward me like she was afraid I'd vanish if she moved too fast. When she reached me, she stopped. Her mouth trembled. Kira, she whispered. Hearing my name in her voice did something to me, like it belonged there. I stood up slowly. Evelyn? I stood up slowly. Evelyn? She nodded, eyes wet. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know if hugging her was betrayal or healing. She stepped closer, hesitated, then said, "Can I?" I nodded. And when she wrapped her arms around me, I felt something I didn't expect. Not fireworks, not instant mother-daughter magic, just a quiet sense of being held by someone who had been missing. We sat on the bench and talked for hours. Evelyn told me she was 19 when she got pregnant. Her family was strict, religious, the kind that cared more about reputation than people. Richard and Diane were older, married, stable, respected. Diane couldn't have children, Evelyn said. They offered to adopt the baby quietly, privately. They promised she could still know me, that it would be open in a safe way. But after you were born, Evelyn said, voice cracking, they changed. They told me it was better if you didn't know. They told me I was unstable, that I'd only confuse you. And when I tried to push, Richard threatened me. I felt my fingers curl into fists. Threatened you? How? Evelyn swallowed. He said he'd tell my family. He said he'd ruin my life. I was young. I was scared. I didn't have money for lawyers. I didn't know what rights I had. My chest tightened. So they just took me. Evelyn nodded, tears falling. I never stopped thinking about you. I kept a box with your hospital bracelet and a photo. I checked adoption registries. I even hired a private investigator once, but they had moved. I stared at the lake, my throat burning. All those years I thought my parents were strict because they cared, but this wasn't care. This was possession. I went home that day with my world spinning, but my purpose clear. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I wasn't going to give Richard and Diane the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. I was going to be smart, because if they had lied my entire life, then they were capable of doing worse to protect the lie. Tessa helped me make a plan. We sat at my kitchen table like two women plotting survival. First, she said, make copies of everything. I saved screenshots of my DNA results. I printed Evelyn's messages. I asked Evelyn for anything she had: texts, letters, names of any witnesses. She sent scans of an old agreement she'd signed, something Richard had written up himself. Not a formal legal adoption, but a custody arrangement with her signature. It was flimsy. It was suspicious. It was leverage. Then I met with a lawyer. Her name was Marissa Clark. She was the kind of woman who didn't waste words, and I loved her for it. After reviewing everything, she looked up at me. Kira, I need to be clear. I can't promise outcomes, but what your adoptive parents did appears deeply questionable. My stomach flipped. Questionable how? Marissa tapped the paper. This isn't a standard adoption. If there was no court finalization, no proper termination of parental rights, and threats were involved, there may be grounds for legal action. At minimum, you deserve records and truth. I left her office feeling both terrified and powerful, because, for the first time, I had proof that my pain wasn't just dramatic. It had a name. Injustice. The next Sunday, I went to family dinner. I didn't tell them I was coming. Diane always liked surprises, so I gave her one she couldn't control. When I walked in, the house smelled like roast chicken and herbs. The table was set like a magazine spread. Diane's smile appeared automatically, then froze. Richard looked up from his seat at the head of the table. What are you doing here? Liam sat beside him, napkin already in his lap, looking annoyed like I'd interrupted a meeting. I took a slow breath. I came for dinner. Diane's eyes flicked to Richard again. Kira, I'm hungry, I said calmly, and pulled out a chair. For a moment, no one moved. Then Diane, because she couldn't handle a scene before dessert, forced herself to act normal. We ate in tense silence. Halfway through, Richard cleared his throat. I heard you broke off your engagement. I did, I said. Liam snorted. Shocking. You always ruin good things. Diane shot him a warning look, but she didn't defend me. She never did. Richard leaned back. So what now? Are you here to ask for money? Because after the stunt you pulled, you're not getting what's stunt? I asked, tilting my head. He narrowed his eyes. Coming here accusing us of nonsense. I set my fork down carefully. My hands were steady. I'd rehearsed this in my head 100 times. I'm here because I know, I said. Diane's face drained of color. Richard's eyes sharpened. Know what? Liam rolled his eyes. Here we go. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I placed it on the table like a final card. Richard's gaze dropped to it. What is that? I looked directly at my mother Diane because she was the one who always chose silence over me. It's my DNA results, I said. The room went still. Liam's smirk faded. What? Richard's chair shifted as he sat up straighter. That's ridiculous. I opened the folder and slid the first page toward them. According to this, neither of you are my biological parents. Diane made a sound like a breath caught in her throat. Richard's face hardened. Those tests are garbage. I kept my voice calm. Then explain why I have a parent match. Diane's eyes widened. She looked like she might faint. Liam stared at the paper, then at me. You're lying. I slid another page across. Her name is Evelyn Hart. Richard's hand slammed on the table. Plates rattled. Stop. I didn't flinch. No, I said. Voice quiet but sharp. You stop. I spent my life trying to earn love. You never planned to give honestly. You don't get to control the truth anymore. Diane's lips trembled. Kira, you looked me in the eye for years, I said, my voice finally shaking. And you let me believe I was yours. You let me believe my questions were wrong. You let me feel crazy for noticing I didn't fit. Richard pointed a finger at me. You're ungrateful. Liam stood up, anger rising. After everything Mom and Dad did for you, did for me. I cut in, eyes burning. You mean what they did to me? Diane's tears spilled. We loved you. I laughed, a broken sound. You loved controlling me. You loved having a daughter that made you look good. But you didn't love me enough to tell me who I was. Richard's voice turned cold. So what? You want to embarrass us? You want to destroy this family. I leaned forward. You destroyed it the day you stole my identity. The word stole hit like thunder. Diane sobbed quietly. Richard's face went rigid. Careful, Kira. I sat back. Steady. Or what? You'll threaten me like you threatened Evelyn. Diane froze at the name, and Richard's eyes flashed just for a second, but it was enough. Liam looked between them, confused. Threatened who? I turned to Liam. Did you know I wasn't biologically theirs? His mouth opened, then closed. No, that's insane. That's what I thought too, I said, until the DNA results proved it. Richard stood abruptly. Get out, Diane gasped. Richard, get out, he repeated, louder. You come into my house and accuse us. Your house, I echoed. Not my home. That's the difference. Liam's voice rose, defensive. You're really doing this, over some stupid test. I looked at him, and it hit me that Liam wasn't the villain in the way Richard was. Liam was a product, a spoiled son raised on the idea that I existed to be smaller than him. It's not stupid, I said softly. It's my life. Richard stepped toward me like he might physically drag me out, and Diane grabbed his arm. Stop, she cried. Then she looked at me, and for the first time in my life, her mask cracked completely. It's true, Diane whispered. Silence. Liam single quotes. S face twisted. What? Diane shook, tears falling. It's true. You're not. I'm not. Her words collapsed under her sobs. Richard's eyes burned with fury. Diane. But Diane kept going, like once the truth started, it couldn't be pushed back into the dark. I couldn't have children, she said, voice breaking. And Richard wanted a family. He wanted the image. Evelyn, she was young, alone. It was supposed to be kind. My stomach clenched. Kind. Diane flinched at the word. Richard snapped. Enough. I stood up slowly, folder in my hand. My knees were shaking, but my spine was steel. You disowned me at this table, I said, voice steady. You said I wasn't your problem anymore. Richard scoffed. You're twisting. No, I said. I'm remembering. I looked at Diane. If you ever loved me, you'll stop protecting him now. Diane's face twisted with guilt and fear. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Richard's expression told me everything. She wouldn't. Not yet. So I did what I came to do. I didn't beg for a mother who chose fear. I didn't fight for a father who chose control. I didn't try to convince a brother who chose arrogance. I walked to the front door and paused. Richard's voice followed me like poison. If you leave, don't come back. I turned, meeting his eyes. I won't, I said, and I won't be quiet either. Then I left. Outside, the cold air hit my face like water. I breathed in, shaking. I didn't realize I was crying until my cheeks were wet. In my car. I sat with the keys in my lap and let myself sob deep, messy, human sobs that came from a lifetime of swallowing everything to keep the peace. But under the grief, something else grew. Relief. Because the lie was finally out loud. Over the next month, I didn't just heal. I built. Evelyn and I met weekly. Slowly, we stopped feeling like strangers. We learned each other's favorite foods, habits, little laughs. She showed me the box she'd kept. My bracelet, my tiny footprint card, a letter she'd written to me when I was a baby that she never got to send. I held that letter and cried like a child. Marissa filed requests for records. Richard tried to stonewall. Diane tried to call Meatwise. Diane tried to call Meatwise. I didn't answer. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood something. Love that demands your silence is not love. It's control wearing perfume. Then came the part I didn't expect. The community found out. Not because I posted it, I didn't. But Richard's world was built on appearances. And when cracks formed, people noticed. A neighbor asked Evelyn, who had been quietly searching for years, if she had finally found her daughter. Someone overheard. Someone talked. And suddenly, Richard was being looked at differently at church. Diane stopped going out. Liam stopped posting family photos. Richard hated that more than anything. One evening, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered, and Richard's voice came through, low and furious. "You're ruining us," he said. I smiled, even though my heart still hurt. "No, Richard, I'm telling the truth. You're just finally facing the consequences. You think you're better than us now," he snapped. "I think I'm free," I said. He inhaled sharply. "You want to know what happens next? You'll be alone. That woman will disappoint you too. Blood doesn't mean anything." I held the phone tighter. "You're right. Blood doesn't mean everything." Then I paused, letting the next words land. "But truth does." He went silent. I added, "And by the way, I didn't do this to punish you. I did it because I deserve to exist without lies." Then I hung up. That night, I sat on my couch with Tessa, and she said, "Do you feel like you got revenge?" I thought about it. Revenge wasn't screaming. It wasn't exposing Richard publicly. It wasn't ruining his career, even though I could have. Marissa said there were paths for that, if I wanted them. But the best revenge I'd ever felt was simpler. It was walking away without begging. Was looking Richard in the eye and not shrinking. It was building a new life with people who didn't require me to disappear to be loved. Months later, Diane finally wrote me a letter. It came in a plain envelope, my name written in her careful handwriting. Inside, she apologized. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough to show she was finally seeing the damage. She ended with, "I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I just want you to know you were never unwanted." I stared at that line for a long time, because I realized something painful and true. I had been wanted, just not for me. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not as a trophy, not as a wound, just as part of my story. Evelyn and I started a small tradition. Dinner every Sunday, not a performance, not a staged photo, just food, laughter, sometimes tears, sometimes silence, always honesty. One Sunday, she looked at me over pasta and said, "Do you ever miss them?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about Diane's hands smoothing tablecloths, Richard's voice commanding rooms, Liam's careless confidence. "I miss who I thought they were," I said finally, "and I miss the version of me who kept trying." Evelyn nodded. "And who are you now?" I felt the question settle in my chest like something warm. "I'm someone who knows the truth," I said, "and I'm someone who doesn't have to beg to be loved." If you've ever been blamed for asking questions, if you've ever been called dramatic for wanting honesty, I want you to remember this. People who benefit from your silence will always call you the problem when you speak, but you're not. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop performing for the people who hurt you start living for yourself. If this story hit something real in you, take a second to like the video, subscribe for more true-to-life revenge stories, and tell me in the comments, have you ever uncovered a truth that changed everything? Changed everything.